We'll now move on to John Woods, Chair of Grains Research and Development Corporation, who will launch the new GRDC Strategic R&D Plan. John was appointed Chairman of GRDC from 1 October 2016. John owns and operates an integrated cropping enterprise in northern New South Wales and southern Queensland, where he also participates in summer crop R&D trials and innovative new techniques. For my hand over now to John. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate that. And I know the Assistant Minister has just wandered out of the room for other commitments, but we love plain speak in this business. We are a lot better when we're frank with each other and actually tell it as it is. Welcome, everyone. Peter, thank you very much to you and your team. Really appreciate the opportunity for being here, and obviously we look forward to a couple of really positive days. I just want to give you a quick hit, really, about where GRDC's at and where we're moving to. I think we're in a very exciting time in the grains industry. I won't use the Turnbull, effort of his explanation, but we are in a very exciting time in the grains industry moving forward, and I think there's great opportunities ahead. Just a quick snapshot, because there are going to be people in the room that don't know GRDC very well. GRDC is the largest grains R&D investor in Australia. We are a large investor in regards to just portfolio, 198 million, but we're also a big influencer on the direction of the R&D in Australia. We cover 25 crops. We are not just a single commodity entity. We cover 25 crops, so we always take an approach of a farming systems approach rather than a commodity approach. We've got 750 strategic investments in the portfolio. We're national. We have 20,000 growers that we need to maintain and look after, and they're our levy payers. And it's worthwhile also recognising that GRDC doesn't actually do R&D in its own right. We rely on partners, key partners, people like CSIRO, state agencies, universities, and now more and more the private sector, such as relationships that we have with Bayer with its herbicide discovery program that we have. Now, it is interesting, you've heard obviously from the Minister, the Assistant Minister, and also from Peter this morning about the grains industry and how we're performing. In the last 12 years, the grain sector has actually doubled in the last 12 years, and I think that's exceptional for an industry that has had a bunch of pressures. And that's obviously been driven largely by better adoption of technology and innovation by our growers, but also by moving some of the system to higher value crops and opportunities. So we're actually increasing the value proposition to our growers as well. And I think we all should be very proud, as growers particularly, but also you as service industries, for what you contribute to the grain sector in the growth. And we are looking to continue that trajectory as best we can. As we actually heard from Minister Chobo, we are 1 and 2 every year now as the largest ag industry in Australia. That's exceptional compared to where we've come from. And if you look at some of these challenges, look at that terms of trade. So with this in the background, the last 30 years, we've continued to deteriorate our terms of trade, constant pressures, and of course, the always unknown factor of climate variability. And as Peter highlighted earlier, we recognise that certainly from New South Wales and Queensland, there is some serious pain this year from our grains industry peers, and we recognise that. But these challenges, even with that, we've still been able to push the industry into new areas and grow the industry and hopefully grow profitability for Australian grain growers. GRDC's purpose changed around 18 months ago, and this is driven by the fact that GRDC is an innovation organisation. If we expect our grain growers to adopt the latest innovation, the latest technology, and actually change their practices on the farm and adopt and adapt, well, those same grain growers should expect that same expectation of their innovation organisation, GRDC. So we had to modernise the organisation and have a look at opportunities as to where GRDC needs to be in the next 20 years, not just the next 4 or 5. And the purpose is quite clear, and this is the way we will look at investments moving forward. Absolutely about investing in RD&E to create enduring profitability for our Australian grain growers. It's pretty simple, but I think it's very powerful. And that change in purpose of GRDC is now framing our strategies and, of course, our R&D plan moving forward, which we're launching today. GRDC's gone through significant restructure as a result of the change in purpose. We won't dwell on some of the hardships. Organisations are very difficult to change, and Steve Jeffries, our Managing Director, who came in 2 years ago, which was charged with the responsibility of taking this on and has done a very strong job in this area. He's actually in the room, and I normally am not complimentary. We always like to have a bit of tough love with our management. But look, we've refocused the business with a purpose, we've realigned, and we've certainly moved. If I went back 3 years, we would only have maybe 8 or 9% of our staff are in the regions. Now we've got 45% of our staff in the regions. Now we've done that for a very clear purpose, and that is to get closer to our growers, to make sure that we've got alignment and outcomes in the investments we're making and keeping it real, but also closer to our research partners to ensure that we've got a level of accountability but absolute alignment with the expectations of that investment coming through. And we've obviously just recently had a new board. We have got significant changes in the senior management in GRDC in the last 12 to 14 months, and we've got new business structures as well. So GRDC as an organisation certainly hasn't been standing still. But where does that take us now? We're obviously focused on grower profitability. We used to talk a lot about investing for productivity at GRDC, but as you would well know, the profitability equation covers a range of metrics. Productivity is only one. And so profitability is the driver for GRDC now, and that is the prism by which we will assess investments. This has actually also changed to a degree how GRDC sees itself in the marketplace. We're seeing ourselves potentially moving into places that we normally haven't looked at. So we've always been very inside the farm gate, whereas now, and you'll see this in the strategy in a moment, we're now reflecting the fact that there's cost pressures outside the farm gate, there's influences outside the farm gate, and GRDC needs to be part of that process. It's not just about what's happening inside the farm gate now with the changes in innovation in Australia and around the world. So the R&D plan is absolutely about impact to growers. That's the driver, and very unapologetic about it. We are very keen on profitable growers because our business model relies on profitable growers going forward. We want to try and put the wind under their wings to try and provide the industry growth and the opportunity. But you as service industry are equal partners in this process to ensure that our common stakeholder, being the Australian grain grower, needs to be profitable. Otherwise, all of our business models are broken. And I think that's something that we need to really think about as a cross-industry perspective. We all have a part to play in this space. If we're talking about the R&D and extension plan that we're releasing today, this sort of sets a horizon for the next 5+ years. But this will be an agile and responsive process moving forward. It won't be a static document. We are looking to tweak it from time to time. And I think a few of the highlight areas that we got responses from growers particularly, which you'll see coming through in the RD&E plan. Firstly, creating transformational impact. Growers want us to reach more in our portfolio, not be quite so conservative. They want us to move from 1 to 2% incremental change to 10% type step change opportunities. That inherently increases the risk matrix of our portfolio. But growers expect us to push the boundaries. They expect us to be moving up that scale so that we can actually make a 10% change in their profitability, their cost base, their production, or whatever it might be. And you'll see that coming through in the coming years as we look at our investments moving forward. So transformational impact rather than incremental. We will still be there in that space of the 1 to 2%, short-term tactical response, preserving technology and innovation, but we do need to shift to transformational. High value opportunities. There's a few areas here. It is absolutely useless for Australian grain to be competing on the world stage with 10% protein Ukraine wheat when the cost of their production is $70 to $80 a tonne less than ours. So we need to look at differentiation and opportunities external of Australia with our products. And that is about value add. Another area is that we need to bring more power and more margin to the grain growers in their rotation system. So bringing higher value crops. So for instance, I farm at Gundawindi. If it wasn't for chickpeas in the last 10 years, 10 to 15 years, we would be seriously marginal. But as a rotation crop, not only does it provide rotational benefits, it also obviously increases my gross margin, and the system operates far more profitably as a result. And we do it quite well in the north, in the south with legumes, but we need to be doing more in the west. So a big driver for us is diversity in the system and increasing the value in that rotation. And a third area are niche opportunities, things like omega-3 canola, which GRDC actually holds some IP on, and it's already gone commercial. We've got ultra-low gluten barley, which again CSIRO and GRDC have invested in. Now these may start out as niche opportunities, but ultra-low gluten barley, for instance, 3% of the marketplace are celiacs, so gluten intolerant. It's not a big market, I agree. But now in Europe, 15% of the population are selecting gluten-free. So what a great opportunity. So what looked like a small opportunity for Australian grain growers to capture a little more premium on a product is now potentially game-changing. So that's the sort of areas that growers told us, we want you to be investing for the next 5 years in the RD&E plan. And as a final piece of the puzzle here, very much about investing with the best. We don't really care whether you're a university, a state agency or a CSIRO or whomever, or your private sector. We are happy to look at investing with you if there are opportunities to actually bring value, innovation and technology to Australia. Australian grain growers, their competitive advantage for the last 30 years has always been getting innovation and technology to Australian growers' hands first, or amongst the first, and adopting it. We need to maintain that momentum. And R&D is global like it's never been before. And we at GRDC need to position not only the organisation, but you as growers front and centre to attract that investment, attract that innovation, because to maintain our competitive advantage against our competitors is that we are always, and will need to be, always first in that technology adoption. So just to cascade down in the RD&E plan, we effectively come out with 5 objectives. I'm not going to spend any time on this, and then they cascade down through 30 key investment targets. And this is just giving you a bit of a flavour for where we're going. Obviously, yield and yield stability would be a core objective of GRDC. Maintain and improve price, some of those bits that I was just talking about. Not a place we've spent a lot of time or investment in GRDC, but you've just heard that I think there's opportunities. We've got Australian Export Grains Innovation Centre and others, Wheat Quality Australia and things that actually do some of this in this area. So GRDC's looking at what are the other opportunities to enhance profitability opportunities for growers. Optimise input costs, pretty self-explanatory. It's not about driving down costs, it's effectively cost efficiency. I'm prepared to spend $1 if I know I'm going to get $1.50 back. And obviously, this is an interesting one, given I'm standing in front of the trade, is reduce post-farm gate costs. I mean, obviously, we've heard the Assistant Minister, or I'm not sure whether it was Assistant Minister or Minister, talk about 30% of the cost of our products are actually tied up in freight. That is enormous. So what opportunities there are there, GRDC's happy to look at opportunities. And of course, risk. We need to try and maintain a system, particularly from a farm perspective, which is reliable, to try and de-risk it as much as possible, because growers are putting up much more investment now than what they were 20 years ago to grow a crop. So an average grower 20 years ago would spend, say, $1.2 million in cost to get a $250,000, $300,000 profit. Now they're spending $1.8, $1.9 million to get the same $250,000, $300,000 profit. So the risk has increased from a grower's perspective. We need to look at opportunities where there are there to try and harness that. And these are the key investment targets. There's 30 of them that cascade under those 5 key objectives under our RD&E plan. and I encourage you to have a look at them. These are certainly going to enable targeted RD&E. They will actually inform both the marketplace and our growers and our research partners the areas in which we're interested in playing, and to a degree what we're playing with. So I encourage people to jump onto the website and have a look. There's a handful of brief documents here that you can have a look at. And as I said, this is the next 5 years, but it's actually 5+ years. The organisation is on a different trajectory. The RD&E plan is extremely different to where it has been in the past, and I think we've got a great foundation to push this industry forward and work with industry. And in finale, I don't know that we'll be growing crops in Mars just yet, but innovation is a massive driver in all our businesses. We all need to adapt, we all need to evolve, we all need to implement the new processes, systems that may be required, or whatever it may be. But when it comes to Mars, well, the other thing that comes to mind as chair of GRDC is, and I'm not sure how we're going to capture the levy, but anyway, we're always worried about the money, aren't we? But I think there's an issue in here, as I said before, all of us rely on the Australian grain grower. How many of us in here rely on an Australian grain grower for their business or personally? Might be easier if I say who doesn't. So, I mean, everyone needs to eat, but I mean, everyone here that's in business absolutely relies on the Australian grain grower. So it's in all of our interests, and we are really keen at GRDC. We're taking a more aggressive posture, if you like, to influence better outcomes, better profitability for our grain growers, and we are really keen to work with industry. Peter, as an incumbent and stepping out, and of course the incoming Andrew, we really look forward to working with industry and the broader organisations to try and deliver to our common stakeholder better outcomes, better profitability, better industry, bigger growth. Thanks.